The earthvox podcast. The earthvox podcast. earthvox podcast.
11:02. I almost made it. You know what happened? What really happened? I'll just be honest with you because I know you won't judge me. I know this is a safe space for you and I. I dropped a tack on the ground. My green screen broke free, and that tack was lost. I spent who knows how many, minutes, if I'm being honest. It didn't take that long, but it was quite a pain to find the lost tack on the ground last week. Then this morning, I thought it was drooping a little bit, and I thought I better put a new tack back in place to hold it up, make it square. And I gotta fix my microphone. Apologies. Come on. There we go. It's funny, I fix it, I get it adjusted just how I like it, and I lock this microphone stand down tightly. I'm so glad you could be here for this. And then after a number of weeks and shows, it gets out of control. I gotta fix it again, along with my green screen. And as I'm reattaching this green screen to the rafters, the tack breaks. And I actually didn't know that it broke, but it failed and bent and fell on the ground. And I'm one of those people that cannot bear to leave a tack unfound on the ground. I don't know if is that a rare trait? Do you ever drop a tack on the ground and just walk away hoping you don't find it at midnight when you get up to go to the bathroom with the bottom of your foot? So as I'm scouring the floor for this lost tack, I learn, it's in two pieces. Of course, the round part that you press your thumb against was easy to locate on the ground. The sharp part that you don't want embedded in the bottom of your child's foot at any point was missing. But not to worry, crisis averted. I found it, and it only made me 2 minutes to the show. So what do I need a green screen for? Well, there is a video element, however lackluster. Well, judge it for yourself. It's on YouTube. It's on Rumble, which I guess I should probably check in with because who knows what technical difficulties we're running into so far this morning. So far, it seems like it's pretty good. It looks great, aside from some maybe potential latency issues, making the video look a little wonky. But this is an audio program first. I try to make it so because I'm a fan of talk radio. Didn't used to be so. I used to be a big, not used to. I was originally, what drew me to radio was rock and roll. That's right. And all of its splendor on the radio and various playlists. I don't think I can do this hat. I'm warm. Be gone, hat. I thought when I was 13 years old and I discovered, what a wonderful world this is when you're doing your chores and digging various ditches. How wonderful the work becomes when you can turn the radio on and listen to music while you work, which then eventually transitioned into talk radio. I started listening to the Howard Stern radio program while I delivered newspapers at 1 o'clock in the morning. Because, of course, his show went live in New York at 6 a.m. New York time, which was right in the prime of my newspaper delivery schedule. And that was where I discovered the splendor of talk radio and what a delight, how engaging it can be, how wonderfully it assists you in taking your mind off the misery of whatever menial tasks you have to perform for that day in that moment. So if you're enjoying the video product, welcome. I appreciate you. Please like, share, and subscribe. And look up the audio offering as well on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to me there. Follow me there. Leave me a nice rate and review. Please help me amplify the podcast. Spread the message. I don't know how much politics I'll be talking about today. I find it to be very frustrating, infuriating, if you will. So my first topic today is Drumeo. Do you ever watch Drumeo? A wonderful YouTube channel. I learned it started out as drum lessons and has now evolved into, I don't know what you would call it. But it comes to mind because maybe you've seen the video of Chad Smith, the drummer from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who looks like, people say he looks like Will Ferrell. I think there was a bit on Saturday Night Live where Will Ferrell, who can also play the drums reasonably well for, a professional actor, although actors are famous actors are quite gifted individuals generally in the performance category, including music and other things. So Chad Smith and Will Ferrell actually get on stage pretending to be, I think it's actually Will Smith is pretending to be Chad Smith. And they do a little drum off, quite entertaining. Well, Chad Smith appeared on Drumeo, where the shtick is basically, we're going to play a song for you, drummer, and any number of drummers. They do this multiple times. I think the best one involves Chad Smith of the Red Hot Chili Peppers playing the song The Kill by 30 Seconds to Mars. And he nails it flawlessly. And it just got me thinking, how is it that Chad Smith, the drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, has never heard this incredibly famous song? I have the chart info here. In 2007, it peaked only at number 65 on the Billboard Hot 100, but number 3 in alternative rock, number 14 on Billboard mainstream rock tracks, but even hit number 1 in some other categories. Yet Chad Smith didn't know the song, and interestingly enough, played it note for note, and was curiously impatient, it seemed. As I was watching, I just watched the video again. I want to play it for you desperately. You can go seek it out for yourself. You just put in Chad Smith 30 Seconds to Mars. It will pop up. You can enjoy it. 2 reasons I'm not playing it for you today, even though as I'm explaining it to you, I feel horribly dumb about it. The music just doesn't sound good streamed in this way. I'd have to get my phone out and play it for you, and then it's audio only, and just, throw it on in the background. And you'll see what I mean. But I found it interesting that literally he does it in one take, and he plays it almost exactly the way it was recorded in the studio by the band 30 Seconds to Mars. And then he's out of there. And I thought to myself, this is interesting. Of course, Chad Smith, he wants to get out of there. When he plays the drums, he earns, well, how much does he earn? I asked Grok, and I had to ask him twice, because the number he initially provided, Chad Smith earns $400,000 in any given performance with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So presumably he is joined Drumeo for fringe benefits or maybe a small stipend. I highly doubt that Drumeo, this blossoming channel that started out as a platform for drum lessons, could afford to pay Chad Smith $400,000 or a fraction of that. What do you think? Red Hot Chili Peppers plays 20 songs in their performance. So we got to do the math real quick just because I feel like we have these devices in our pockets that are wells of knowledge. Why my phone is, it's been in my pocket, so it's damp. It's a little warm down here. I turned my heater up to 72 this morning. That's right. I'm living large. And that proved to be a little too much, even down in my basements. So if Chad Smith earns $400,000 per performance and the Red Hot Chili Peppers play 20 songs, that's $20,000 per song. Do you think Drumeo is paying Chad Smith $20,000 to come up and freestyle on one song that he's never heard before? I highly doubt it. Nevertheless, he came in, he nailed it, and it was a great moment in rock and roll. You read through the comments on these videos, and people are saying, "Oh, this was the first one I saw, and it's been the best one, and every other one has been kind of a disappointment to that point." Well, agreed. It has been a disappointment up to that point. Getting some chats from Gopher C to the J. They do look like chins, twins. Out of hatred and jealousy for Jared Leto. Yes, Jared Leto is an interesting topic in element to this conversation. Because I just learned this, within the last couple of years, I guess Jared Leto, the lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars, is kind of a douchebag. And I don't know, does this happen? Are the people, this is the thing I wonder about often. And I'm so glad we can have these topics of discussion outside of politics because politics really is making me sick these days. Does a person become rich and famous and then suddenly develop these douchebaggy personality issues? Or is it part of their personality that makes them strive for greatness and eventually evolves into, this person is a jaded douchebag rock star? Like the people that rise to the top of politics and rise to the top of the corporate world. Is it the journey that has made them this way? Greedy scumbags? Or has this element of their personality that drove them to be so successful in these industries evolved into, well, now I'm a bloated douche that nobody wants to be around? It's the age-old question. I hope that doesn't happen to me. I know there's good people. Chad Smith seems to be a completely reasonable individual, but there are others. Ellen DeGeneres comes to mind. David Letterman. Other people that are just kind of generally their employees are afraid of them. But then you hear stories about people like Jimmy Kimmel, even though, despite how much he may be loathed in conservative circles. Gopher C to the J chats. Ambition comes with a big ego. I agree. Especially when that ambition has led to so much success. I could see that. I could see that working its way into your personality. I worked hard for this success that I am enjoying. Therefore, I am better than you. Theoretically. I saw this clip just this morning, actually, and it tied in so well to what I wanted to talk about this morning that I had to save the clip and share it because, I mean, this is, this, yeah, well, you'll see. Let's take a listen.
Y'all want to know the real reason why America is absolutely losing its mind? Look at this graph. In 1995, there was about 40 rock and roll bands on the Billboard Hot 100. And in the same year, there was about 14 million Americans being medicated for their mental health. That's a lot of medication, probably too much already. But do you know what that number is in 2025? Over 45 million Americans are now being medicated for their mental health issues. And do you know how many rock and roll bands are in the Billboard Hot 100? Zero. My advice to you is if you're feeling like shit, you had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, or even a bad year, find some rock and roll music, crank that shit up, go start punching your pillows, go scream, go dig some holes, find a concert to go to, jump in a mosh pit, drink some beers, scream, run around, and let that energy out. Just do it. We need rock and roll back in the mainstream before we totally lose it as a country. God bless you. Y'all want to know
me
the
feel better when I'm feeling upset. The band I go to is called Slaughter to Prevail. You can probably guess what they sound like. That's correct. They sound like something you want to break things to. That's how I like to describe it. On the stupid Riverside platform, again, messing with my layout. I'm going to have to write an email. I know I say that every time. I think the answer is, and this has become part of our culture, right? The answer is, you feel sad? Well, go to the doctor. Go see a psychiatrist. Get on some medication. It'll help you feel better. Instead of motivating you, it's like the shortcut syndrome. Don't improve your situation. Don't work on yourself. Go see the doctor and get on some pills. You're fat, overweight, out of shape. Go to the doctor. Get on some Ozempic. Get some bariatric surgery. Get a sleeve on your stomach so that you don't eat so much. Because I can speak directly to this issue that so many of us deal with. Self-control is hard. It's one of the things I work with my kids on all the time. Self-control. You got to control yourself. You can't yell and scream and freak out and throw things and fist fight your siblings. Self-control. I'm not going to go get some pills for my 5-year-old because she won't stop going apeshit on her big sister. I'm going to teach her self-control. Or teach her that you lose privileges if you don't control yourself. But look at these stories of behavioral health medications being oversubscribed. Just the headlines here. Antidepressants overprescribed for mild or sub-threshold depression. You know, things that can be resolved by going for a walk or spending some of your time on a hobby. Antipsychotics overused in elderly and foster care populations. Yeah, because people don't want to work. It's hard keeping these old folks happy. Let's give them just a bunch of drugs. That makes things easier. Related also to this next headline, ADHD stimulants prescribed too hastily to young children. A 2025 Stanford medicine study found many preschoolers ages 3 to 5 are prescribed ADHD medications shortly after diagnosis, often without first trying behavioral interventions as recommended by guidelines. Psychotropics often prescribed by non-specialists. A 2023 psychiatric services study revealed over 60% of psychotropic medications are prescribed by non-psychiatrists, such as general practitioners. Maybe you should have an issue with that. Maybe not. But it's unfortunate that the culture has become take the shortcut. And of course, it's all incentivized because people want to get rich. People don't want to work hard. They want to take a shortcut, but they want to get rich. No wonder the people that don't take the shortcuts, that do put in the work, that are driven to be great, have developed such an attitude problem, like Jared Leto. So how do you feel about it so far? Are we talking about politics when I breeze through those stories about overprescription? I mean, it sure is adjacent. Because of course, I mean I stopped sharing the screen, but this first story about antidepressants from the National Institute of Health in 2019. Well, who was responsible for that? 2019, National Institute for Health. I mean, I think it was Anthony Fauci, right? It's hard to stay out of politics when these stories of injustice. I mean, that's what it is. You're giving these poor kids ADHD medication. That's going to be, I mean, of course, we're not going to talk about side effects. We're not going to talk about metabolic harm that these things do. And it's why. It's because massive corporations, the healthcare industry, which we're going to talk about a lot today, are in the pockets of politicians and other regulatory bodies saying, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You keep the money flowing to us, we'll keep cutting you in 10% for the big guy. And nobody does anything. You must have heard about the Somalian fraud. I covered it weeks ago. And the MSM is finally catching up, the mainstream media. So what's going to happen? Is anybody going to do anything about it? What happened to my screen? Good Lord. Not one thing, it's another. Here's Jesse Waters.
We've known Tim Walz for less than a week, and we've already found out he let rioters burn down cities, lied about his military service, crushed small businesses, and turned Minnesota into a child sex change sanctuary. But that's not it. Tonight, we're dropping another Walz bombshell. As governor, Walz let a gang of politically connected Somali fraudsters steal $250 million of your money. It was the single biggest COVID scam in American history. During the pandemic, the government was giving out money left and right. A nonprofit in Minnesota, Feeding Our Future, got $250 million to send food to needy kids. Sounds good, right? Here's the problem. Almost none of it was used for food. The Somali scammers blew our cash on real estate, cars, extravagant get trips. We have wire transfers that show thousands going to car dealerships. $160,000 went to some company in China. And $500,000 was sent to Kenya to buy an apartment. A $500,000 apartment in Kenya is probably a palace. But our tax dollars weren't just used on goodies. The politicians got a taste too. Ilhan Omar got thousands of dollars in donations from some of the scammers. These guys weren't criminal masterminds. It was sloppy. When they cooked the books, they made up names of their fake clients. They came up with these names. Are you ready? Unique Problem. Friday Donations. How'd nobody catch that? Well, early on, Walz's administration thought it looked a little suspicious, so they froze the funds. Then the Somalis sued and called Walz racist. so he kept letting them steal. They didn't bother to crack into the bank accounts or issue subpoenas. Walz just put his hands in the air and said, I'm not racist. Take whatever you want. Minnesota has a huge Somali population. You can't get called racist and expect to win another election there. Walz even gave one of the fraudsters the Minnesota Outstanding Refugee Award. 3 years later, she was indicted. No thanks to Walz, the feds came in after he ignored the problem for years. During the trial, the Somalis tracked down a juror and dropped off a Hallmark bag on their doorstep, filled with 120 G's, and a little note saying there's more to come if she acquits. This all happened under Walz's nose. He had every chance to stop it and failed. Just like he failed to protect his city during the riots, and just like he failed his unit when he retired before deployment. This is the guy Kamala Harris chose as her number 2.
I don't think it's failure. Do you think it's failure? Do you buy that? Do you buy the racism excuse? No matter how poor the excuse is. Oh, they said he was a racist, so he just let it keep happening because he didn't want to be called a racist. No, I don't think so, Fox News. I'm sorry. I like Jesse Waters. I think he creates a good program, good content, Jesse Waters. No, there's been stories. Stories have come out. Like AG Keith Ellison, who is on record saying, you give me campaign donations and I will operate to benefit your interests. It's documented. Is anybody going to do anything? Anybody going to do anything about the fraud in Somalia? Let's see. Let's just see here from Wall Street Apes on X. Oh, nope. More Minnesota judges are dismissing fraud cases against Somali immigrants. Let's watch the video.
The Minnesota judge who tossed out a jury's guilty verdict in a fraud case is not the only judge in Hennepin County who had problems with the state's case. I broke this story that went national a couple weeks ago. Judge Sarah West acquitted Abdi Fattah Youssef 3 months after a jury found him guilty in a $7.2 million home health care fraud scheme. Since then, I've found that another judge, Amber Brennan, dismissed charges against Youssef's wife before it reached trial, and a third judge, Hillary Caligiuri, dismissed charges against another co-defendant. In that case, Caligiuri said the state had very little evidence. Judge West's ruling relies on a review standard for cases that rely heavily on circumstantial evidence with wording that is unique to Minnesota. It says that the evidence has to be inconsistent with any other reasonable hypothesis. I'm following a state Supreme Court decision expected to come back soon that could completely rewrite all of that. It's the conviction of Nick Firkus for the 2010 murder of his wife, Heidi. Whether his conviction is overturned or affirmed, the court opinion will have a huge impact on many cases in the state. I'm Lou Ragoose. Follow for more news.
So she just didn't like that the jury came back and convicted him. Is that the precedent that we want to set? We're letting judges run wild, do whatever they want because they're ruling for leftists. So since it's convenient for leftists, they just dismiss cases, release people from prison. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. What was the fourth name in there? Hussein? No, I don't think so. Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man, remember? Well, he's free to roam Maryland again, thanks to another radical leftist judge. And nobody's doing anything. It's fine. Oh, a judge. We're just ruled by judges now. It doesn't matter what we voted for. The judges will step in and go, yeah, I know you voted for that, but we don't like it, so we're not going to do it. I know you convicted this guy of ripping off taxpayers in Minnesota. But he's giving me a lot of money so that he isn't held responsible for his crimes. So I'm going to dismiss this. I'm going to dismiss these charges. And since there's a leftist supermajority in the state, I won't be impeached. I guess you get what you vote for. But the conservative media wants to just keep rehashing old stories like it's new info. Oh, Black Lives Matter organization is laundering money. Oh, the Bidens took bribes from foreign governments in tens of millions of dollars. There were hundreds of thousands of fraudulent ballots in Arizona and Georgia. Yes, this is new. They're couching this as new information. Oh, look what we just learned. We just learned there were hundreds of thousands of ballots in Arizona from Wall Street apes again. I guess
Now, this new data
I'll play the video.
set, as they're calling it, brings the total number of people impacted to 218,000 instead of the 98,000 we first reported. These people were mistakenly marked as having provided documentary proof of citizenship. And Arizona voter registration database now has correctly flagged the impacted individuals. Election officials say they will contact the affected Arizonans with information regarding their status after the general election. That means for now, the Arizona Supreme Court's ruling is going to stay that impacted voters, that includes all of them, will still be able to vote. Now, this new data.
Whoops. We just accidentally marked 218,000 votes as legal and verified. Whoops. We just swayed the outcome of the 2020 election to Joe Biden on accident. What if they'd accidentally done that for Donald Trump? What do you think the response would be? Again, in Georgia, at Amuse writes, DOJ found hundreds of thousands of dead voters and thousands of illegal voters, but Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger refuses to hand over records and still hides 1,000 plus Fulton County ballots. Georgia is blocking transparency. What are they hiding?
Hi, I'm Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and I'm here to share an important update about one of my many important duties here at the DOJ, which is enforcing our federal election laws. Here's some facts and figures for you. In the last 8 months, the DOJ has reached out to all 50 states, asking them to share their voter rolls with us so that we can help them comply with the Help America Vote Act, which requires states to maintain clean voter rolls. 4 states complied voluntarily. We sued North Carolina early on, and they are checking the voter records of 100,000 voters who were improperly enrolled on their voter rolls, and they're going to fix their problem voluntarily. We have an agreement in place almost with another dozen states, and I expect very soon we'll be looking at their voter data and comparing it with our records and helping them clean up those voter rolls. Now we have 15 lawsuits pending against 14 states. That's right, California got sued twice, and we are in litigation with them. They're refusing to provide their records, even though many of these states voluntarily provide their voter rolls to nonprofit groups like ERIC and even other groups. And so we are going to make sure that we get to the bottom of those, and then we're going to get to the rest of the states. So we're engaged with nearly 30 states. Here's what we found so far. We've checked 47.5 million voter records. We've found 260,000 plus dead people enrolled in the state's voter rolls, which is pretty concerning. They're going to be removed with the help of the DOJ. And finally, that there are several thousand non-citizens who are enrolled to vote in federal elections. This is very concerning, and the DOJ is partnering with local law enforcement where appropriate to prosecute people who have unlawfully voted in our elections. Even one person voting who shouldn't have voted is one too many, because every citizen is entitled to one person, one vote assumption that their vote is being counted equally and only with other American citizens. We will not rest at this DOJ with the leadership of the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, until we complete this project
Pam Bondi.
and provide confidence to all American voters that the rolls are clean and the elections are free and fair. Thanks so much.
This is why I'm so furious with the state of politics today in 2025 on December 14th. Pam Bondi. Oh, Pam Bondi's going to do something. Okay, what is she going to do? And how much longer do we have to wait? Story after story of fraud. This was, for the last 5 years, Donald Trump has been talking about the rigged election. And what has been done? Who's been held accountable? There was an election last month. A leftist was elected in Miami. For the first time in 60 years? And states are allowed to let illegals vote in their elections if they would like. Yes. So we need legislation on the federal level that says if you allow illegal aliens to vote in your state, you're not allowed to participate in federal elections. What do you think of that? How's that going to go over? Leave me your suggestions in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas. Because this is the game plan, as we've established. Radical leftist mayors elected by illegals and other radical leftists, who then go on to destroy the quality of life in those blue cities so that all the able-bodied, sober-minded citizens move away. Well, then what do we get? Then we get radical leftist governors. Then we get radical leftist attorney generals. Then we get havens for leftism and illegal immigration. And we could kiss Republican politics goodbye in those states. So now we all have to suffer radical leftist policies. Because we left our states. Because we didn't like who got elected. Because we didn't monitor the way our elections were being conducted. Because we had to go to work. Because we trusted the people that we elected to conduct themselves with integrity. And what we got was Katie Hobbs in Arizona, the Secretary of State in 2020 or 2022. By the way, per my discussion with Stevenson Gerald Longbottom III of last week, Kamala Harris, yes, Kamala Harris was not the VP in 2017. She became a senator, which kind of, unfortunately, derailed the discussion. I mean, it didn't really derail it, but when I listened back, I was like, oh my goodness, that's a pretty glaring what Freudian slip. No, Kamala Harris won a seat in I believe it was the Senate, not Congress, in 2017. But Katie Hobbs, I guess, I mean, do we need to look it up? I mean, I feel like I need to look it up. Give me the Wikipedia. Give me that Wikipedia juice right into my veins. We know these can't be changed. Let's see. Is editing on her account, is it locked? Can you even edit? Oh, it's not. It's what happens if I click edit. I'm gonna bring you guys in. Let's explore. Let's explore this together. We'll have a lot of fun. We can build a fort. Yeah, it looks like one is allowed to edit Katie Hobbs. Did they get rid of that? I mean, I don't know. I'm out of the loop on Wikipedia news. So 2022, Katie Hobbs, the Secretary of State, was allowed to conduct her own election for governor in Arizona. this is somehow allowed. If you're the Secretary of State in Arizona, you can rig the election for yourself to become governor in 2022, allegedly. And there's all kinds of rumors regarding Katie Hobbs' corruption and involvement with cartels. But no big deal. No big deal. We gotta go to work. We got a job to do. Ugh. Give me a break. Pay attention, people. Immigration and fraudulent elections are going to take your free country away from you. Are you ready to be the UK? Where they don't do jury trials anymore in some circumstances? Are you excited for that? Because that's what's coming, baby. If you don't wake up and pick up the phone and get active and stop this crazy leftist snowball in its tracks. Somebody prays outside of an abortion clinic in this country and the left loses their minds. But Somalians in Minnesota can rip us off for billions of dollars. And no big deal. Okay. I guess I just won't talk about it anymore. Off the topic of politics, before I break something, I saw this pretty cool video. It always makes me feel good when leftists or perceived leftists speak out against this vile, rampant leftism. Here's Harvey Levin, the founder of TMZ.
So the Golden Globe nominations are out, and so begins the ridiculous award season. These awards are junk. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense when you look at the new category, podcasts. How is it that Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn haven't been nominated? Well, I think there's an answer to that. And the answer has to do with this, which is leaning right. And that's the way this goes. If you've ever watched the Academy Awards, when you hear somebody get up on stage and say anything to the left, they get huge applause. When it goes to the right, they get boos or silence. And it's just the way Hollywood works. And I've been around here for a long time, and that's the way it works. And don't think I'm saying this as somebody who feels snubbed on the right. That's not the case. I'm a registered Democrat. I don't mind saying it because it's public record. So it's not like I have a dog in that fight, but it's ridiculous. How do you not nominate Joe Rogan? Does that make any sense? Whether you like his views or dislike them, he is a consequential, really good podcaster. I mean, he just is. That when you listen to the breadth of what he does, the depth of what he can do, and the honesty, at the very least, how does a guy like that not get nominated? Again, it's obvious what the answer is. The answer is that he leans to the right. And that's the way all of these awards work.
Does Harvey Levin want to get on the Joe Rogan Experience? What's his motivation? Is he coming around? From Ausha.com, the top 9 you can see on the screen podcasts of the year, according to them. Number 1, the Joe Rogan Experience. Number 2, Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. And number 3, this past weekend with Theo Vaughn, which I enjoy from time to time. Rounding out the top 10, Good Hang with Amy Poehler, the Jefferson Fisher podcast, Your World Within podcast with Eddie Pinero, Subway Takes with Kareem Rama, Call Her Daddy, The Daily, and Crime Junkie at number 10. The left just continues to destroy their credibility. They've completely delegitimized their award shows. You can't even trust critic reviews for films. Who wants to do that? Why do you want to destroy your own credibility in the name of political power? Apparently, anyone who had any sort of positive reputation with the general public, they took that reputation and used it as a weapon against you, and have been for God knows how long. Ivermectin was horse paste. Don't take it. We can't risk having it be effective treatment for COVID. Otherwise, we lose our emergency use authorization for the next talking point. Safe and effective. Safe and effective. Safe and effective. Well, isn't it interesting that these safe and effective treatments for COVID-19 are now getting a black box warning? At DC Drano writes on X, they kicked combat veterans out of the military for refusing the COVID vax. They fired nurses and firefighters, people who they called heroes just months before. Families were ripped apart at the holidays. And for what? A drug that now has an FDA black box warning because it can kill you. People need to go to jail. I concur. But will they? Should I ask Grok? I don't think I'll get a satisfactory answer. We'll let him churn on it for a few minutes in the background. How many high-profile political, better spell it right. No, political. I can do it. I'm a speller. How many high-profile political arrests have been made by the Trump admin this year? I'm sure I'll get an answer. And you can join me on criticizing whatever that answer may be as we continue on here. I never wanted to talk about COVID with my last, with Jordan, my last co-host, the Brit, because he got all of them. I thought about reaching out to him a while ago to see, how he's doing, thank him for taking the time and the things that I learned. I am actually grateful now that I'm not bitter anymore, but I never wanted to talk about all of the damage that COVID was doing to people because that guy got 4 shots. And I don't want to make him feel bad. I don't want to make him feel stupid. Even if he is really stupid for doing that. I mean, he didn't have a choice. That's the position that our leaders wanted to put us in. If you don't get the shot, your life is over. If COVID doesn't kill you, we will figuratively kill you because you're not falling in line. You're not going with the herd. You're not helping us live up to the commitments that we made to these massive pharmaceutical companies that wanted to sell you a shot that would do horrific harm to your health. And the further we get away from this, the further we get away from the pandemic, the more convinced I am that this was an attack on the free world. Kash Patel appeared on Glenn Beck's program last month, and he doesn't say anything particularly groundbreaking, but he signals, quite obviously, in my opinion, about where the pandemic actually came from.
So I already told you what we did when we briefed Trump on the originations and what he did, based on the intel we had at the time. Then enter Fauci and the media. No, the Chinese would never do this. It's not about, no, it didn't come from that. Then the wet bat thing came out and some other goofy whatever.
Right.
Okay, what did we just
wet bat. He said wet bats.
Learn 6 weeks ago? Gina Haspel, as director of the CIA, under Trump, authorized 6 case officers and intelligence analysts to be paid off so that they would change their assessment on COVID origination.
Correct.
That's not a Kash Patel thing.
That's CIA.
That's a CIA
yeah.
institutional decision to spend taxpayer dollars to lie to the world where COVID came from because it fit the narrative that Fauci and the media wanted out there, along with Gina Haspel, because she didn't want Donald Trump to get the credit for reading the intel right and making the hard right decision. But what happens is we're 2 years down the road from that, 3, and that story's been written. You know, that iron has been cast. So half the public is like, what are you guys talking about? That's a right-wing conspiracy. And this is why it's so important to keep drilling at that work, because many more of these instances of conduct will come to light if brave whistleblowers, congressional oversight. And
That's given me a lot of hope.
They pushed out this wet market theory because they couldn't let on that we knew what this was from the beginning. We knew how dangerous it was. We knew the mitigation pathways. Because if we knew and it was made known that these officials running our healthcare institutions, the NIH, etc., then we could all breathe a little bit easier. But most importantly, then the public would say, well, tell me, what's this about? How dangerous is it? Oh, it's not that dangerous? Well, then we're not going to go get this weird experimental vaccine. And it was the CIA that was pushing this out. It was the CIA that was silencing doctors. It was the CIA that was reaching out, and other intel institutions as well around the world, silencing dissent on social media, using their back doors into X, into Facebook, to silence alternative discussions. And silence, by the way, all the people that are now in charge of these healthcare institutions. The ones that were saying, no, this is a bad idea. Ivermectin works, hydroxychloroquine works, early intervention. While hospitals were sending people home and saying, come back when you can't breathe. The CIA has become the globalist cabal, and maybe they even started it. I mean, check out all these conspiracy theories involving the CIA and the healthcare industry. Project MK Ultra and mind control experiments, one of the most documented connections. Rooted in declassified CIA files, the theory claims the CIA funneled millions in black budget funds into medical and pharmaceutical research for mind control, using LSD and other drugs supplied by companies like Sandoz, the original producer of LSD. Proponents argue this shows CIA funding directly supporting and corrupting the healthcare industry to advance covert goals like behavioral modification during the Cold War. While MK Ultra is a confirmed historical program for 20 years back in the 50s until 1973, the conspiracy angle exaggerates it as an ongoing template for big pharma CIA partnership in drug development and population control. Well, is it really a conspiracy? Do we have any conspiracy theories left now in 2025? Or are they all known facts? The CIA creation of HIV and AIDS also connects the CIA to healthcare. A persistent theory since the 1980s alleges the CIA engineered HIV as a bioweapon, possibly in collaboration with pharmaceutical or government labs to target specific populations. Some variants claim the virus was tested in Africa or through hepatitis vaccines. with Big Pharma profiting from withheld cures or ineffective treatments. You know who else was involved heavily in HIV and AIDS? Oh, I can hear you screaming it. That's right. Anthony Fauci. Also claiming to connect the CIA to the healthcare industry is the fake vaccination campaign in Pakistan. Based on real events in 2011, the CIA allegedly ran a sham hepatitis B vaccination drive in Pakistan to, get this, collect DNA and locate Osama bin Laden. Conspiracy theorists extend this claim to the CIA, who routinely funds or infiltrates global health initiatives like the World Health Organization to mask intelligence operations, eroding trust in vaccines and benefiting Big Pharma through manufactured health crises. Of course, the CIA funding drug trafficking and Big Pharma collusion. But this one is interesting. Deep State and Rothschild style global control. Broader Deep State theories portray the CIA as part of a cartel with Big Pharma, funded by elite families like the Rothschilds or corporations to control healthcare for population management. This includes claims of blackmail, sabotage, and rigged systems where pharma profits fund intelligence ops or vice versa. Recent examples include whistleblower claims of CIA manuals used to sabotage health reforms that threaten pharma grifts. Ladies and gentlemen, is Big Pharma now funding the CIA? Is the CIA the enforcement arm of Big Pharma policies? It sure does explain a lot about what's going on in Venezuela. And I know I keep coming back to this. It's because the official story doesn't really make a lot of sense about what's happening in Venezuela. We're blowing up drug boats, but they keep sending drug boats. Well, why do they keep sending drug boats? I don't know, but they're bad. Okay. Why do they keep sending them? Why do we keep blowing them up? And why do we continue escalating? And by the way, what does Obamacare have to do with this whole thing? I mean, can we agree that the healthcare system in the United States is a big problem? Especially as it pertains to the World Health Organization and these other international bodies that want to create health policy. And then the Senate fights tooth and nail against Affordable Care Act reforms. And all the fraud that's happening in Somalia. And it's all enabled by these Affordable Care Act policies. And Mike Johnson has just revealed another case of fraud regarding the Affordable Care Act.
A new report by the Government Accountability Office, which I haven't seen too much written about yet. You should look into that. It is an eye-opener as well. It makes clear why it would be a dereliction of duty to just extend subsidies without massive reforms to them. Okay, over the last 2 years.
This is what the leftist Congress in the United States wants. They want more subsidies, more Obamacare subsidies. And this is what they've been used for.
This is investigators at the Government Accountability Office, okay? They submitted 24 fraudulent applications for the ACA subsidies, the Unaffordable Care Act subsidies, Obamacare, okay? Of the 24 fraudulent applications that they created intentionally to just see what would happen, 23 of them were approved. These applications were completely fraudulent. The investigators did not submit any Social Security numbers, citizenship documentation, or reported income documents. And 23 of the 24 applications were still approved. 18 of those, by the way, are still receiving coverages they were as of September of this year. That means the Obamacare exchange and insurers didn't verify any of the information they're supposed to under the law, and they proceeded to pay tens of thousands of dollars to insurance companies for people who do not exist, okay? The GAO report also found that 29,000 Social Security numbers in 2023 and 68,000 in 2024 were used to receive more than 1 year's worth of insurance coverage. In other words, multiple people were utilizing the same Social Security numbers to openly defraud the American taxpayers. The GAO also found that more than 94 million was sent to insurers on behalf of dead people, okay? This is the system that Democrats in Congress want to extend without reform. It's unbelievable.
Because they're benefiting. Because they are benefiting by allowing this to continue. This is what's happening in Minnesota. They just say, oh, it's because they called him racist and he didn't want to be racist, so he just let it continue. Okay, well, I guess we'll just brush that off then? The Democrats are complicit. They want to allow it to continue. Oh, well, why would that be? How could they possibly be benefiting? I point you back to Minnesota AG Keith Ellison. He wheeled and dealed so that it would continue happening as long as he got a cut. Oh, sure. Rip off all the American taxpayers, but give me a piece and I'll look the other way. Is that why the drug trade has been allowed to continue? Is that why they keep sending boats from Venezuela? Because people within the administration are saying, no, we'll figure it out. Keep sending them. We'll obstruct. We'll use our leftist judges. I feel like it's all connected. Like Venezuela is connected to the CIA, maybe even controlled by the CIA. It's not outrageous to think. They claim this is what was happening with Saddam Hussein. This is what was happening in North Korea with the Kim family. That the CIA has gotten so big and so powerful and so wealthy that now they control their own countries and are partnered with cartels. Or, in fact, creating cartels themselves. I asked Grok to tell me about the Cartel de los Soles, which I think I covered a few weeks ago, calling them the Cartel de los Solares, which is a misapplied term. But it's used to describe alleged networks of high-ranking, get this is how Grok is explaining the Cartel de los Soles. High-ranking Venezuelan military and government officials involved in organized crime, primarily drug trafficking. Originated in the 1990s, with its primary role being facilitating large-scale cocaine trafficking using state resources like military aircraft, ports, and convoys to transport drugs. They're using their status as a sovereign nation to stop other governments from getting involved. And I'm supposed to believe that the CIA isn't involved with this? Finally, he writes, some view the cartel as a U.S. fabrication to justify military intervention in Venezuela and seize its oil reserves, akin to Iraq's WMD claims. Left-leaning analysts and UN officials call it narco-mythology or a media invention with no proof of structured organization or Maduro's direct control. But think about the money. We have evidence of foreign entities paying politicians to simply not be involved. Unevidenced theories include CIA creation of the cartel in the 90s via allowed drug shipments for intelligence ops, ties to global election rigging through Venezuelan-linked Smartmatic voting machines, and broader plots like demographic replacement via migrants or fentanyl as chemical warfare against the United States. Venezuelan officials dismiss it as a pretext for aggression, yet turned around and offered Trump basically anything to allow them to continue doing what they were doing. How strange. So I'm a little bit sick of politics because the picture painted before me, shaped, of course, by my own opinion, says that foreign governments have figured out to rig elections and bribed politicians to allow this infrastructure to be used in their states and counties. The benefit, of course, being you allow Venezuela to sell you their Smartmatic voting machines and you'll never lose another election. And when your term is up, you can wheel and deal with the next guy in line. He'll owe you favors because you got them elected. Then, as long as you want to continue being elected, you just have to push the policies of the people controlling the voting machines. You got to let the Somalians in numbers of millions and millions. But don't worry, they'll vote for you. You have to let them rip off your taxpayers through healthcare fraud. But they'll contribute some of that money to your campaign. So you'll have an even better chance. You can pay off the media so that they keep these unsavory stories away from the public. In the same way these major multinational corporations operate. This is the state of the world. I mean, look right here. Instacart. You know Instacart. They're like DoorDash, Postmates. They bring stuff to your house. But this is what social credit has gotten us. These corporations have stolen so much of your information. Now they just throw it right in your face. Let's watch.
Turning to business news this morning, you may have heard of dynamic pricing. Well, now Instacart is accused of using this controversial practice to charge consumers wildly inconsistent prices on the same products. Maribel Aber joining us live from NASDAQ with our Market Watch report to explain. And this is infuriating.
Oh, Alicia. Okay, let's get to it. Food delivery service Instacart is being accused of charging different prices to different customers on the same grocery items without them knowing. Groundwork, it's a consumer advocacy group, says Instacart's pricing algorithm could lead to shoppers paying an extra $1,200 on groceries annually. Nearly 3/4 of grocery items it surveyed were sold at different price points. Instacart said the price differences were tests conducted by some retailers to learn, quote, what matters most to consumers. It denied using shoppers' personal information to fuel dynamic or customized pricing.
Turning to business news this morning, you may have heard of dynamic
customized pricing. That sounds fair. Which way is it going to go? Is it going to go lower? Are they going to hook you up with the lowest price? Or are they going to gouge you because they know that you'll pay for it? You buy this stuff all the time, we'll charge you an extra 20% on it. And you're none the wiser because you can afford it, right? And you don't really care. No, I've heard that airlines have been doing this for a long time. You go on and check the price of a ticket. They'll use the cookies that they mandate your computer to create for their site, so that if you come back and check the price of the ticket later, it will be more expensive. And you'll just scold yourself, right? Oh, dang it. I should have bought it when I had the chance. Now it's more expensive. Are we good with this? Should this be allowed? Can we even rely on any honest politician to legislate this out of existence? Or are we just going to sit back and take it? In other news, there's been an alleged deal with Ukraine, but you're not going to believe the details on this one. At Prove Me Wrong 411 writes on X, Zelensky is ready to sign over every inch of Ukraine to Putin the moment he gets personal immunity and a guarantee that the U.S. will never investigate where the billions in American taxpayer money actually went. And this is why they don't have a deal. Because the Trump administration will not give him full immunity. And many politicians in the United States want to know where all of that money went. Do you remember when this was sensational? I think it was Rand Paul introduced legislation to track the money going into Ukraine to find out where it was being spent. And no luck. Dead on arrival, I think they said. Why would that be? Given everything that we've talked about in the last hour, why do you think that would be? Well, this podcaster thinks it's probably because we would discover that many politicians benefited from the billions and billions of dollars. Your dollars, my dollars. They got shipped over to Ukraine, no questions asked. I think we'll also find that it purchased properties. It purchased luxury vehicles. And allowed all the oligarchs from Ukraine to live nice, cushy lives, while the lower and middle classes of Ukraine were sent to die on the front lines for a war that could have ended before it even began. Is that a shocking bombshell to you? Should it be? It's corruption on top of... Well, that was weird. Corruption on top of corruption. And that's why I'm sick of politics. And I think I might be done for the year. Not because I'm mad, but just because I'm going to take a little Christmas break. Spend a little more time with my family, a little less time grinding on the podcast, although I may do some appearances on some other podcasts which I will likely upload on this channel, on my own channel. I was thinking I might actually watch them with you on the stream, or listen to them with you on the stream and weigh in, provide some comments, maybe correct my BS in real time. But before we take off, we got a little bit of good news / a little bit of validation, a little bit of, I don't know if you would call it a prediction, but a little bit of my own prediction or my own suggestion coming through here. This post from Benny Johnson. Breaking. President Trump has announced $12 billion from tariff revenue will go to farmers. Let's watch.
Delighted to announce this afternoon that the United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs. We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years. They took advantage of us like nobody's ever seen. Our deficits are way down because of tariffs. I guess because of the election, because without the election, you wouldn't have tariffs. You'd be sitting here losing your shirt. But we're taking in billions. We're really taking in trillions of dollars, if you think about it, Scott, because the real numbers, when you think of all the money being poured into the country for new auto plants and all of the other things, AI. So what we're doing is we're taking a relatively small portion of that, and we're going to be giving and providing it to the farmers in economic assistance. And we love our farmers. And as you know, the farmers like me, because, based on voting trends, you could call it voting trends or anything else, but they're great people. They're the backbone of our country. So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers. $12 billion is a lot of money, Meryl. What do you think? Peanuts for you, though, right? Peanuts. She's a farmer of rice. This relief will provide much needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. And it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices for American families.
I don't know if it's enough, but I will take credit for the idea. I'm glad Donald Trump watches the podcast or listens. No, it's not. It's not a particularly clever idea, but it's something that needs to be done. I don't know. I'm admittedly, I'm losing a lot of faith. I'm losing a lot of faith in what's been going on. I mean, it's been a year. I guess it's been a little bit less than a year. But we're not getting enough. We're not seeing enough. It's going to be obstruction every step of the way. We got to move faster. We got to cut some corners. We got to break some laws, maybe. We got to trample on some unconstitutional freedoms. Maybe. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Something needs to be done. We need to do dramatic things. We need to do things urgently. But so many Republicans are content to just wait out the Trump administration, maintain the status quo, and watch our country slip further and further away, it seems. We got to get rid of them. And I hope that I will have more of that news to report for you in the next year. Maybe something groundbreaking will happening and I'll jump on and do an emergency podcast. But for now, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on X at earthvox. Follow the show on Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, or X. That's the one. I'm mad at X. I've watched my engagement decline since probably October. Maybe because the show is bad. Maybe I need to shake it up. Maybe I need to take on a co-host, do some different things. I don't know. I'm going to think about it for a couple of weeks. Follow me on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify as well, for you audio-only listeners. Send me an email if you'd like to have an extended discussion. The Real Earthvox at protonmail.com. And leave me a voicemail if you'd like. at 701-787-1121. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'll be back.